All right, welcome Radio 223 part-timers to another video. This being lesson 74, we are continuing with airtime, and that is two of six, or this is two of six. And the reference to your textbook is through the Next Level Radio textbook. The pages 329 to 330, where chapter 6.1, Introduction to Airtime, 9.2. Bit of a jump ahead. That doesn't make any sense. That's 9.1, excuse me. And okay, anyway, 9.1 spots, page 330 to 331. Then the live reads are 331 to 333. Okay. So, all right, we have already done quite an extensive lesson in the previous, obviously introducing obviously the key concepts, the core concepts of airtime. And we obviously, as you can see, we're going to be continuing this for a couple of lessons moving forward, right? So just in general, again, also, we've got a short little video to play out for you, but also a couple of scripts that I'd like to show you. I might try to execute some of them. I'm not going to profess that I'm going to do a great job in terms of voice delivery, etc., etc. The main thing here is that you do see what scripts look like for voiceovers and for again for spots, etc., and what they are in terms of the direction, etc. That is particularly defined, on the copy itself. All right. So let's look at this. Obviously, in this chapter, as we continue, we look at revenue and sales. Obviously, once again, we'll be looking and focusing on that, particularly through the rest of the semester's learning material, right? Airtime is the time on air. Obviously, that sales obviously will have to make money off, right? And so the station can live, breathe, and continue to live and breathe. Agreed? Right. So at the end of this chapter, you should be able to, one, obviously explain the procedure and methods that are involved in a radio spot. So from, let's say, the sales side to, the kind of confirmation that signing of well, a quote unquote contract or what it is that they have agreed upon, whether it be, as you said before, promotion, a competition, or whether it just be a package of advertising that they are selling, through to, like I say, running the copy, getting the voice of an artist, recording it, production, and then obviously in terms of scheduling via the traffic department, right? And then execution, right, on air as a bit of a roundup to the whole cycle, right? Identifying aspects of partnerships between media outlets and stations, including individual and show sponsorships. And then third will be identifying the aspects of partnerships between media outlets and then stations, obviously, and this station, right? A station, including individual and show sponsorships, right? So the whole concept of, once again, trying to get those presenters on board, brand ambassadors, influencers, because they are influencers just by default. Again, they reach a lot of people, and this is, I'm talking about the presenter themselves. Automatically on a platform that reaches a ton of people. They do listen to them already because they like the show, they like the station, etc., etc. And so the thing is, and again, a presenter must always be on the side of truth, right? Yes, I'm still sick. Anyway, anyway, okay. So the thing is, it's more effective. It really is more effective coming from a DJ than 10 to 1, any old influencer, quote unquote influencer that you might come across and might take a chance on in terms of the digital sphere, right? Okay. All right. Anyway, so let's, as we know, as a disclaimer, we do read some of the, or we read through obviously the points, and then I elaborate as I normally do. Okay, so identifying the aspects of partnerships between media outlets, power spots, and the presenter is key, because if you have a shifted relationship or a jarred relationship, or when I say there's a disconnected relationship that you're trying to work through, for example, easy here. a presenter doesn't quite match the client's product or service that you are trying to partner up with, they tend to want, it's not because they're a terrible presenter or they're a terrible person. It's just maybe if it's a lady's product, you'd like a lady presenter, a female presenter to be on board with that, right? Describe various methods, and this is just continuing with the introduction, describing various methods of deriving revenue through brand ambassadors, obviously demonstrating awareness of the possible pitfalls involved for stations and individuals. And just to kind of break that down, just as we do the introduction, I just said that there could be the pitfall of the fact that quite possibly a brand ambassador that we do use as an endorsement outside the station, which is done very commonly. It's not like it's not done at all. You know that is true anyway. So the possible pitfall is that maybe this brand ambassador slash influencer, right? That we do sign up for a particular promotion, product, etc., might just not effectively reach that digital audience or their particular mass target market, because once again, maybe that target market has been mismatched to the product or the brand, right? And it's not when it comes to digital, what I've seen is that kind of generic when I say generic use in terms of the usage of that particular product or service. So for example, if you are let me just think of, like, for example, I always say washing powder. Everyone uses washing powder, toilet paper, I guess. I suppose no one's going to endorse toilet paper because there's no need for it. Everyone needs it, so they'll go buy it, right? But let's say you want to promote Uber or Bolt, okay? That's not necessarily something that the influencer has to be quite specifically intertwined with, right? If you are a big, you have a mass audience online, and let's say Uber approaches you and says, well, you're going to give them a code, and with that code, they're going to get 50% off of their, obviously, off one of their bookings, etc., whatever. Then if so many people who do use Uber that do follow that person are going to obviously respond to that, you know, use the code, use Uber, might use them in the future, etc., because it's obviously brand exposure and then obviously brand experience, etc. So in terms of that, like, you don't need a particular influencer, right, with their brand to actually, with their brand and their brand identity to match with Uber or with Bolt. But if you had to go and say there's a particular product, and this is very specific, so let's say talking about, let's say, like robotics for small children, so these little play sets that include base robotics, obviously, I say, what is it? Working with electricity and conduits, etc., etc. Building little, for example, let's say, what is that thing called when you want to kind of, not like a plumbing system, I suppose even a plumbing system, but like a water system, water supply system, etc. Okay. Like, you're not going to get any old influencer for that. You'd probably lean towards someone that is either in tech, for example, or is in education, that that would have a vested interest, or a very famous child psychologist, or etc., etc. Right. That will be able to link directly with that partnership. The brands really match. Okay, I think you do understand. Right. Describe the procedures and methods involved in deriving revenue through outside broadcasts. Right. So again, we can talk about that. I think we will talk about that, and we have spoken about, obviously, the importance of outside broadcasts. Explain how digital platforms can be integrated into, obviously, the on-air product itself. On-air product is the core. It's the most important thing, because That's what we are. We're the on-air product. We're the radio station. How do we use the digital platform option to be able to really just amplify what the brand is all about? Explain how online presence can cross-promote individuals and media outlets with reference to actual examples. And then obviously, excuse me, discuss how an event or activation can be revenue advantages for a client. Okay, so let's, excuse me. I'm really sorry for that. Right, okay. So let's begin at the beginning, right, with spots. Okay. So you know that a spot is an advert, okay, something that plays out for that it's produced, that we play out is at some time during the clock, at allocated times specifically so that we can charge accurately, etc., etc., depending on what is that the client wants. They could also again book a package or buy a package where we spread spots out across the broadcast schedule, right? The schedule itself, different shows, different times, making sure that particular advert is heard or could possibly be heard by the largest amount of our audience, uh, um, the largest percentage of our audience. Spots are also called generic or classic airtime, or their banner under that, right? Recorded messages that are played on air during the airtime segment that was bought to or bought by the advertiser. It sounds very kind of like a very old hat in terms of the terminology, right? But I suppose it does actually fit. We do record the piece. We do again produce the piece out so that it can sound good. And again, the voice of artist doesn't get it correct first go. There's a couple of takes, etc., etc. So we're talking about a produced, like a produced product here that comes out, and then you hear it all the time. So they typically about 30 seconds because it's easy to define our rate card according to 30-second spots. 45-second spot, 40-second spots, maybe even a minute are normally reserved for PSAs and anything. Sometimes the spots might even be 20 seconds. I predominantly with syndicated shows because there's a variation between maybe two or three or four or five different stations and how they sell ads, right? So with syndicated shows, the breaks obviously have to be synchronized, etc., and have to be the same. And we could quite possibly find that the spot could be shorter, right? But not something like 22 seconds, 25 seconds. It's silly. It's just silly to do it and makes no sense. All right. Advertisers can, however, buy airtime ranging from 5 seconds up to 60 seconds, right? So in the 5 second brackets, right? 5, 10, 15, 20, and up to about 16 seconds, 60 seconds, right? Spots are clustered into advertising breaks. So our ad breaks, our spot breaks, which you are aware of, what they are, which are part of the show clock. Each ad break is roughly 3.5 minutes if the station is doing well, the sales department is doing their job. We normally average it at that particular length. For me, and I'll tell you why I think it's that. I don't, and I might not be right, but because the average length of a song is about 3.5 minutes. The spot break at being the same average of any other particular song also doesn't sway a listener from switching off or whatever. It's just long enough, short enough for them to tolerate it, right? And we hear like with the bigger commercial stations, they really push listeners' buttons. They really do. Only because, again, I know this for a fact. Also, I know this from my own experience of working for commercial, where in busy, so heavy revenue or I say heavy traffic times, right, throughout the year, particularly September. September, October. Yeah, okay. So if you were listening to radio throughout September, you might have noticed that a lot of the commercial stations play a lot of advertisements, and it's not because they suddenly have, some kind of reason to have more business or in their own account. It's not. It's because businesses know they're putting in their last for the last quarter of the year. They've got to they're putting in different strategies, different products, different promotions, different whatever it is, and it's a last stretch of the year, right? So they're going to put all their money in, or they put their last amount of budget, budget that's assigned to advertising, etc. They push at that time of the year because they know lifestyle wise, they really need to. People might be spending their other money. I'm saying to you, let's say we get to November, December, not on their products, which could be luxury items or service items or whatever it may be. In November, December, it's Christmas time, man, holiday time, present time, like staying at home time, and not everyday usage time, right? So that's what makes sense to me. I know that I'm saying in terms of both the length as well as the scheduling of it as well. And the what we do find, what I want to get to is my point, my big point, should I say, because I'm making a number of points in between, is that, man, like that when you were listening to those stations that were playing up to in the breakfast shows, up to possibly 4 minutes 45 seconds, 4 minutes 30 seconds, which is preposterous. That is so long. Anyway, okay. But yes, 3.5 minutes. Okay. Which means there is space for 7 spots. Creativity is very important, but we must be very careful to not be too creative. So, so a spot is a spot is a spot. In other words, it needs to convey a message clearly and simply and very, I mean, when I say clearly, simply, and you have a short amount of time to do it. So you need to apply 3 C's. One is capture. So content must capture the attention of the audience, and this can be achieved through a cleverly crafted script, a voiceover, obviously the correct voiceover for the correct. You must match up the correct voiceover artist, for the correct execution, for the correct ad, and the correct audience, and the correct product. Right. Okay. Music and or message. Curiosity. Content must arouse the curiosity of the listener in order to encourage their continued listening and eventual brand buy-in. So curiosity, not vague curiosity. Ooh, what's this? What's that? No, man. Like, don't be silly. Again, I'm going to use the word silly. Yeah, because you've got 30 seconds to work with, and just tell them what it is that you are selling. If you say we have a brand, this is like it is, this car has won the number one car in whatever category, whatever, that's curiosity, because then we want to know more about this particular car and why it won this particular accolade or whatever. Right. Okay. So that constitutes as curiosity. Curiosity can also be simplified down to, for me, this makes sense. So if a shop says they're doing a 60% off sale, or like if you are going to buy into Temu and you can get 100% off of your first buy, you're going to be like, well, I'd like to find out a little bit more. You're curious about how on earth are you going to get something for absolute bullocks. Like, in other words, you're going to pay not a single cent, just pay attention, right? And that's curiosity, right? And then convert the content must convert the listener from being a passive consumer to actually wanting to go and do something about that call to action. Go buy that new lounge set. Go buy a new TV. Go and enlist. Well, is it enlist the services of this, I don't know, like bank or whatever it may be, right? Okay. Okay, a good radio spot is much like a story. It must have a strong intro. Again, hooks are everything in life. I'm saying in media, got to get attention quickly, got to tell them exactly why it is that you want their attention directly afterwards, right? Draw the attention or draw the attention of the audience in, and the interesting middle section that tells them why they should care about the relevance, and of course, then the call to action, as I said, right? Okay, just get here. Right, that's not right. Jump from one to the other. Okay. All right, so reach and frequency, a great radio advert is worthless without an audience to listen to. So, media planning and implementation are equally important to the success rate of that generic advert placement. We can't just, we can't just. It's a holistic package, right? So we need to make sure that the correct again that relationship is it's solid, it's justified, it's credible, whatever, between again consumer and then client, right? So media planners will look at a brand's desired audience along with the radio station's audience, and they will then pinpoint the best times, channels, and environments in which that message will then be conveyed and shared. Should it be something visual? So, and then we must use social media, right? Should it be something again audible, which is fine and sits on obviously on our platform? Should it include again different elements like I say a competition or a feature or whatever, right? So reach is extremely important as it offers the advertiser a chance to connect with as many listeners as possible. And so this ensures that the message is obviously widespread. So just the way that we do it's a with radio again, it's quite simplistic in general when you approach and do understand the medium as a whole. This is the same way we would think about producing content, right? Content is obviously content, music, adverts, whatever it may be, right? Everything on radio is there and catered for the largest possible percentage of our target market at any one given time. So the same rules, which is good, man. Radio or any kind of, I would say, construct, right? So I'm going to use banking again, or we can use something like, like I was going to say travel agents, but that is right. Um, like hospitals or whatever. From the top down approach, the structure will hold will hold the same kind of core approaches, right? That are kind of they intrinsically um, intertwined, right, throughout how the business actually runs. Getting back to this, literally the same thing that works across radio will obviously be rippled down to or trickle down to how, for example, just the concept of radio advertising works at the same time. Want a big audience to pay attention, want to appeal to a big audience with a generic message at any one given time. Okay, I say generically relevant, right? Okay, so radio is referred to as a frequency medium because of how easily ads can be bought and how effective they can actually be, right? So that means that advertisers can flood their spots, play their ads several times a day to make sure that listeners hear and take in the message. It can be so we need we rely on subliminal messaging, which is what advertising does across the board. You need to see when there's a campaign that has been launched by a particular company or whatever it is, they should approach that particular campaign by including OOH, radio, television, print media, and obviously digital, right? So you can see it everywhere. And subliminal messaging is about repetition, and about molding a different kind of like line of sight, right? So that's what we do. Context, right? So once you have the message and you've decided on your way to maximize the audience, that you want to reach, then you need to consider how the message is going to be received. And that's about the context, right? So it's underrated. It's an underrated element in the creation of generic advertising, and the mindset of the audience, along with the environment of the show and the creative messaging of the advert, must all work together to ensure optimal impact. I think that's very straightforward. And so I'll move along. Right. Right. It's just a note that we have covered those particular. Look, we have capture, curiosity, convert, and then again, uh, those very key aspects and cause of how it is that we approach from start to finish an advert. Okay, live reads, on the other hand, you know what a live read is. It's when the DJ, a presenter, broadcaster, right, to make it a little bit more formal, right, it has a script, and there is no ambience, so it's cold. In other words, it's just their voice and no bed music, no nothing, right? And they take this script and they read it word for word for word for word at a particularly scheduled time, right? And you know of this because you hear it all the time. You've been hearing it forever and a day as well, right? If you've been listening to radio all your life. A live read also contains a brand message. It's scripted and paid for by the advertiser, and it also attempts to influence the listener's feelings about the brand, particularly because some of it is accounted to the DJ that is reading it out, right? When they hear that particular DJ reading it out, it's considered almost like a very kind of backhanded brand endorsement, right? And I'm not saying it is. It's a very low key version of it, right? So the biggest difference is that obviously the live read is live. So what we've heard sometimes before is that the station will ask obviously a presenter to record a live read and then obviously schedule that in, which sounds exactly like a live version of the live read, and that's particularly because the DJs make too many mistakes. And you can't have that because yeah, obviously the client's going to be like, well, what's going on, dude? Like, why, like, why must I pay for a terrible execution on this? You promised me that a live read has a certain, obviously, it's like there's obviously a quality assurance and then obviously execution, delivery, etc., whatever it is. And now this person, this rando presenter, doesn't have any investment in really caring about the product, and so he's making mistakes, man. So the presenter needs to go and practice that live read, and also part of their skill set is to not make mistakes in general, right? Okay, so we all, as presenters, some are obviously a little bit more eloquent than others when we do links itself. When it comes, which is fine, that's tolerated because if you're a good presenter, let's say little ums and this, which I do quite consistently here and there, not all the time, but I do it, as I say, consistently throughout my entire career. Are nothing to a listener because the presenter, me, I need to sit here and I need to give them a good show and make sure that what I'm doing and how I'm saying it and how I'm executing it is good for them, right? Getting back to me, and when I do get a live read that's obviously scheduled in there, I don't make any mistakes. So I practice that live read, practice it, practice it, practice it, practice it, because I can see it's coming up, but also I can see it's scheduled, right? And I would take some initiative to do that live read justice. There is no debate around. There's no compromise. What was the station or the client compromise? Anyway, it's absurd. That's why my voice just goes to absurdities, right? Anyway, it can offer it's absurd. Anyway, okay. So it can often top or tail an ad break. Obviously it's executed at the beginning or the end of a break. So when we play out a spot break, A live read is normally scheduled before or after that, again, to couple advertising together, right? So it's still part of the spot break, but it's either at the beginning or the end, right? Live reads give the perception of personal endorsement, and by presenter that's reading the live read, it provides a level of credibility to the brand, which is hopefully conveyed to the listener. Live reads are more expensive than generic adverts. Salespeople refer to this as loading, right? So, yeah, I'm not going to make a comment on that because that's changed. Okay, for when I say grew up in radio, a produced advert was more expensive than a live read, and a live read was a cheaper option. But as time has grown or passed over the past 2 decades, that that I've been in radio, this obviously leans very heavily on the fact that the presenter is is an influencer around that particular, that voice that they're giving, that direct live request, or it's almost like a demand for attention from them to the listener, is why it now costs a little more. In other words, if you were to buy five live reads, they would cost more than five 30-second spots. So this is because the presenter is lending their voice, their relationship with their listener, and the message, making it more valuable and therefore more expensive, right? Even more, can you imagine now can you imagine you pay more for a live read? Yeah. And then the presenter doesn't do the job. Oh, anyway, sidebar. Okay, succinct and impactful messaging. Live read campaigns can exist on air for long periods of time. The message should show change frequently so that listeners stay interested, right? You got to use your ability, one of the many skill sets that you have as a broadcaster, to really like if it's exciting, it'll say there, do this in an exciting way, like be a little bit more hyper, like make sure that you have a sense of comfort and warmth. It'll say that. It'll indicate to you, do it in this way, please. Right? Don't repeat the same message over and over. The listener will become bored and stop listening if you are repetitive. So consider what the message is that should be conveyed to the audience when they walk away from their quote unquote radio set, right? After hearing your advert, and find a variety of ways to deliver it. Okay. Again, I'm not going to say that that's correct and I'm not saying it's incorrect either. Again, normally with a live read, the client's going to say to you, I want it in this particular way because I don't need, and again, I understand, I don't put the trust in varied talents, varied personalities, making their own interpretation, which is not that, when I say it's not that expert, it's not. As presenters, what do we know? In general, I'm saying to you about a particular directive for a live read that we can interpret it in our own way and then decide to do what we want with it. As I'm saying, as broad as this particular statement says, I don't agree. That's not right, and that doesn't happen. It is very clear. The message is very clear, and the directive is very clear. Do it in this way. Say it in this way. Say what is here on paper, because in comparison to a live promo where we say, do what you need with it, do what you want, man, go ahead, but make sure that obviously X, Y, and Z is included, where we give the presenter liberty of making it their own. That's when this does apply. Anyway, okay. All right, include easy to use specific contact information like telephone numbers, email addresses, so call to action, simple web addresses, social media handles, for listeners to follow up. Don't overwhelm the listener. If the message is scripted in a way that highlights the brand, listeners will likely search for further information and reach out. So, premium costs have to do with obviously higher costs, right? And a premium package, right, which needs to we need to obviously include the package needs to include a holistic, like a holistic. When I say holistic, it's got to include a number of different avenues and ways that we are going to share this advert with listeners, right? By that I mean here, so live reads usually carry a loading. It means that they are extra charge. So the rate of regular 30 or second 60-second spot, just because they sound like they are part of the show rather than separate ad breaks. So obviously it sounds like, again, the presenter is telling you to do certain things. Um, this makes them more valuable. But furthermore, premium pricing discourages advertisers from buying these as frequently as they would buy conventional spot plans. So this ensures that live reads are used correctly and are not exploited by advertisers. The premium pass must include some kind of added value for that particular client. The best times to use a live read is when something requires immediate action or urgency, when communicating a change or update for any information, uh, PSAs for emergencies. So that's kind of redundant, right? For offers that are available for a limited time, so immediate action. If the live read has a particular interest or relevance to the product, this creates a greater sense of personal attachment to the message. Okay. The margin of error, there's always a risk of human error. That's from the presenter. The radio station asks for these scripts in advance to give the presenters time to rehearse and establish a tone and manner for the presentation and the execution, delivery, etc. That is natural but also consistent with the station's brand too, but also pleases the client, right? It helps presenters prepare for mistakes and errors. The shorter the spot, the shorter the script needs to be, which again I think is very obvious, right? Before we get actually, let's just do it all in one, and then I can get to the uh I'll get to the video, and we can get to the spots as well. 333. Let's get that. 333. I'm nearly there. Page away. Okay, it says there, do activity 9A. Activity 9A says, choose an advertising spot from a radio station that you listen to regularly, or visit the website of a station that you're familiar with and listen to a live stream or recorded session. What's required from you is what time of day and day of the week does this particular spot play? B, what product or service is being advertised in the spot? Let's turn the page there. C, what advert or piece of content played before the spot and after the spot? D says, state the target market you think this advertising spot is aimed at, and give one reason for your answer. E says, discuss whether you believe the spot has succeeded at achieving the three C's necessary for creativity. It's another two questions. Number two says, in your own words, briefly explain the difference between a spot and a live read. Number three gives a little bit of a case study. Excuse me. A household appliance company called so is that Lemonade? Yeah, no, so Lemonade is having a sale to celebrate its 10th birthday. The company has also recently rebranded its website to give the brand a new, more and modern image, and wants to attract customers to the new online store. The sale will run for 1 week and offers customers a 25% discount on all purchases made on the company's website only. only, right? So the company wants to ensure that it attracts as much online traffic as possible. So what's required from you is to write a 30-second live read to advertise the sale during a morning drive time show. All right. I like that. That's a nice meaty exercise. That definitely will help you, will help you along with understanding all aspects that we have covered here. So let me quickly just stop the share. Um, I'm going to first go to the voiceover script, right? Just so you can see copy, please. Okay. So let's just look at the first one, the one that obviously is up here. Tetherwood Country Golf. Okay, and again, I'm not going to execute it like a voice over artist should. We're just going to read so you can see how the script and the copy looks. So something like this you'll find as a voiceover artist. You'll be booked, whatever it may be. You'll walk into the recording studio. There'll be a sound engineer and sales, as well as maybe the client and copywriter will be there, right? Okay. So it says there, either male or female. It must be 30 seconds in length, and that can be obviously so in post-production we can get it to 30 seconds. The demographic is families with school-aged children. The character or the narrator should be like a friend, late 20s, early 30s. Vocal direction should be cheerful, athletic, neighborly, educator, or a bit of anticipation, right? And or cheerful, athletic, quickly, like you know, I'm saying to you, powerful, neighborly, educator, educational, and bring about a little bit of anticipation. So knowing how to control that execution is a practice that you need to really polish if you're going to consider yourself a voiceover artist. Suggested music: buoyant, natural, energetic, and suggested sound effects: golf ball being tapped, the sound of the ball going in the hole, child squealing in delight, cheering, congratulating, to obviously add to the whole product. Here is how short the script is. So the copy, um, and again, once again, just excuse the snot that I'm going down on. This thing, snot. Okay. Right. Okay. So the copy says, "Did you hear that?" Then there will be sound effects of a child screaming, yay, whatever it is, in delight. That's the sound of setting a goal and achieving it, taking it slow, grasping the club gently, and focusing in on the ball. And then obviously anticipation builds, lining up the stroke, and well, in it goes. Right, not the well. You can't divert from the script anyway. So, let's just say that again. Taking it slow, grasping the club gently, and focusing it on the ball, lining it up for the stroke, and in it goes. Then the kids cheer, the parents congratulate. As again, ambience, treat your kids to some family fun and excitement while teaching them the value of setting a goal and achieving it. Tetherwood Country Golf. It's more than just mini putt. Noise, noise. Yeah. I will share that with you. When I do, so I'll ask Grant to just load that up. I need to just quickly head off to that very short video. This one here. We can watch that. Yeah. All right. Just let it load. So we normally ever come to the baby. We've become used to it with my PC. Okay, I hope you did learn. If it's loads, I can just say if there is anything that you do need, WhatsApp, you know that as we're closing off the semester, please do reach out. Here, let's close the lesson with this video.
Radio, you have a huge audience sitting behind a wheel waiting to hear from you. So, how do you write a radio script? Even if you're not going to write a script yourself, it's a good idea to know what you can do and what you can't, and the difference between a good script and a bad one. How long should your commercial be? Well, what you say is limited by how much time you have to say it. For people who are not used to writing to a time length, this takes a bit of getting used to. You can only squeeze so many words into 30 seconds. Speak too fast and the words just get lost. And speak too slow and it sounds a bit dull. So a good pace for 30 seconds is 75 to 85 words. That's about 8 sentences. You can buy airtime in any length, but a 30-second spot is the default radio commercial length. Very often companies will buy a mixture of 15s and 30s to get more bang for their buck, so for the same money they can have more spots. You would then write your 30-second spot and then cut it down to a 15. If you get an ad agency or a radio station to write it for you, the process looks like this. First, the radio agency will write a creative brief. This document outlines the goal of the communication, the deadline, any mandatories that need to be in the script, like a telephone number, your opening times, or a website even, and also what the budget is, how much money that the creative process has got to play with. There's a link in the description if you want to find out more about that. The creative brief is given to a creative team and they write a bunch of scripts. The client is shown the scripts and then picks one. The agency goes to a production studio with a sound booth. They bring in professional actors and a sound engineer adds music and sound effects and does his magic and mixes everything together. Then they send a file to the radio station. So, how do you fill those 8 sentences? It doesn't sound like much time, does it? A simple structure for a 30-second commercial could go something like this. 1. You present a problem that your listener is having. You then offer a solution to that problem from your brand or company. Follow that up with some proof points to make the solution believable. Then finish with a call to action, directing the listener to where they can find out that solution, a phone number, website address, etc. You have to remember that a phone number or web address looks very short when it's written down, but takes a long time to say. Each number is a word. Now that's a simple structure for a script. If you want to make the commercial stand out, and let's face it, if your commercial runs in a commercial break, there is a lot of competition and you want it to stand out. Getting it on air is one thing, but getting people to actually hear what you have to say is an entirely different thing. You have to make it worth listening to. You don't want people to switch off while they're waiting for the next song, or even worse, switch stations. That's when you use sound to conjure images in your listener's mind. You write with your ears. Your script is based on the sound you hear. You can use sound effects and music as punctuation marks or to add emphasis, like a champagne cork signifies a celebration. If you then use a professional voice, they can speed up or slow down their voice by fractions of a second. They can make sure your script fits perfectly. They can add excitement and emphasis where you need it. You can then take it even further and use actors who can play roles in your script. A sergeant major, a farmer, even an Elvis impersonator, whatever you need. Anyone with a distinctive voice that will help you make your marketing goal in a creative way that gets noticed. Start with an idea. How can you get your point across? Then work out your structure, your intro, your offer, and then your call to action. Write the ending first with all your mandatories, time that, and then see how much time is left to deliver your message. Then write with the sounds in your head, imagine what the listener will hear. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below.
Right. Awesome. Nice. Stop that share. We'll see you in lesson.